Hello and welcome back. In this mini lecture, we are going to focus on collecting data to design and evaluate a competency-based ESP course. At the end of this lecture, you are expected to be able to list key components in a competency-based ESP syllabus, explain why we, as course developers, need to collect relevant data, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of some common tools for data collection, and identify main sources of data. It should also be noted that you will be required to complete an individual assignment after this lecture. In the previous mini lecture, we have learned that course designer in a competency-based ESP course often combine learners' needs and characteristics of target language tasks to build up a set of language competency. These competencies, in turn, are used to define general objectives for the whole course and learning goals for each teaching unit. These competencies also work as building blocks of the syllabus. Teaching content is often built up around these competencies and sequenced from simple to complex. Classroom activities should be performance-based. Some common activities are role plays, simulations, and skills demonstrations. Instructional material should be directly relevant to the target competencies and suitable for learners' needs, interests, and abilities. As mentioned in the previous mini lecture, learners in such a course are fully in charge of the learning process, and the teacher is just here to support learners when they need it and withdraw this support when learners can carry out the learning process themselves. When it comes to assessment, both formative and summative assessment should be used in this course. We should bear in mind that any assessment practices carried out in this course should be aligned with the target language competencies. As course designers, we do need to collect relevant data to build up a set of target language competencies. These competencies are a combination of learners' needs and key features of the language tasks that learners need to carry out in their future job. The process of data collection to define those target competencies is sometimes referred to as a need analysis process, or in other words, a process of exploring learners' needs and their target employers' expectations. During and after course implementations, we also need to collect data to evaluate and then improve the course quality. Very often, we look back at the key components in the syllabus as mentioned above and how these key components operate in reality. But most importantly, we look at whether learners are able to master the target language competencies and whether they can use the target language to successfully carry out their professional tasks. To collect those data, we need some special instruments or tools. In what follows, we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages of some common tools for gathering those data. Questionnaire surveys and interviews are probably the two most common tools to collect data for such a course. Very often, a questionnaire survey is first carried out a large number of research participants to grasp an overview of issues being studied, and then interviews are conducted with a smaller of these research participants to dig deeply into those issues. The data from interviews can be used to triangulate or expand the findings from the questionnaire surveys. However, both of these tools are limited in the regard that we can only gather information regarding the participants' perception about those issues rather than their actual behaviors. Observation can help us remove this limitation. In fact, observations allowed us to record participants' actual performance. Observation can be carried out within the classroom context to see how learners deal with a particular learning activity, or on-site when learners actually use the target language to complete real job-related tasks. For the purpose of course evaluation, Learners may also be pre-tested on the target language competencies before the course starts, and then post-tested again on those competencies when the course ends. Comparing their performance in the pre-test and the post-test, we can also make some inference about the effectiveness of the course. However, using those pre- and post-tests may make us lose the sight of what has gone wrong and why it has gone wrong. As each of these tools has their own pros and cons, it is often recommended for course designers to use more than one tool to collect data. In this way, those tools can supplement one another. There are, among many other, 3 main sources of data that we, as designer of a competency-based ESB course, need to focus on. The first course is learners and teacher. While the former provides us with the specific language needs and that inform our build-up of the target language competency and their learning experiences during the course, the latter can tell us what has gone well and has not gone well in the course and why. Another important source of data is the expectation of the target employers. They can give us a description of typical professional tasks that learners need to use in the target language to complete after their language course. From their description, ESB experts and researchers can generate a list of language competencies that learners can develop. In addition, data from ESB experts and researchers can also be used to inform our selection of teaching content, methods, and assessment practices, and to evaluate the quality of the course. So far, we have gone through the key components in a competency-based ESB syllabus, the purposes of data collection, the pros and cons of some common tools for that data collection, and the main sources of those data. Could you now please answer the questions above? If you have a no to any question above, please come back to the course coordinators for further explanation. As already mentioned, in this module, you are required to build up a plan to design a competency-based English course for flight attendance course. In this plan, could you please specify who you want to collect data from, what type of data you need to collect from them, what tools you are going to use to collect those data, and why. The marking rubric for this assignment will be sent to you via your personal emails. Thank you.